I'm going to fire somebody this morning, Julian Council. I think it's going to be Brian Daboll up with the New York Giants. Ooh, they looked atrocious. I'm going to tell you all about that and more on the barbershop here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise and Wiggy's ready with his scissors and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It exactly is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. It is the new Locked On NFL show. As you can see, it's twice a day here on Locked On NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you check out Tyler Rowland early in the morning. That's right, Tyler Rowland, the madman, is the first up every single day here on Locked On NFL. And then I am right behind him here in the barbershop, and we're going to get it in with Julian Council here in just a second, our Locked On NFL expert. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by PrizePicks. That's right, man. Y'all know what PrizePicks is, man. We've been talking about it for a long time. What you do is take yourself over there and download the PrizePicks app, and then you pick more or less on your projections, and you can receive your $50 bonus. That's right. All you got to do is make a $5 bet. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Shout out to the everydayers who join us every single day here on Locked On NFL. And every Monday, I'm joined by Julian Council of Locked On NFL.
Yes, sir.
That's right. You ready to get into everybody's business, man? Because I'm going to be handing out pink slips and all of that stuff. I want y'all to hear something. We're starting in New York City because why not start in New York City? If you know Patricia Traynor of Locked On Giants like I do, she's always so mellowed out and is just the voice of reason. I want you to hear what Brian Daboll and that quarterback up there have turned my buddy Patricia into. Check this out.
Drop passes. Unofficially, I counted 5. All right. Now, granted, some of those balls were not thrown on the money, but if they hit the receiver in the hand, they better bring it down. That's their job. 5 drop passes. You ain't going to win games if you're dropping passes. The secondary, the defensive secondary, which we all knew was going to be a problem, roasted by Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, people. And I don't know, maybe it's at a point now where the Giants defense looked, better against the offense because the offense maybe wasn't as good, or maybe vice versa. I don't know. But my gosh, if this is what the Giants are going to put on the field week after week after week, we're in for a long, long season. I mean, my gosh. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. In all my years as a barber, whenever I hear somebody say, "I don't know what to tell you," they really don't know what to tell you, bro. You and I have been in that same situation. Yeah. That sound and that look of distress means somebody might get a pink slip here real soon.
Yeah, I mean, that was me yesterday with Carolina, and I'm sure it's probably you at Jacksonville as well. It's like we have been there, and I feel for Patricia because it's not like the Giants have been an organization that have traditionally been this bad, but recently it's gotten bad. Like 2022 clearly was an aberration. When you saw what Daniel Jones was able to do with Brian Daboll in that year one, go to the playoffs, be able to knock off the Vikings in that wild card round. Then last year, Jones didn't play well. He gets hurt. They come back after an offseason where we saw on that HBO offseason Hard Knocks, they were looking for a quarterback. They were thinking about getting Drake May from North Carolina, which would have been delicious. Both Drake May, Daniel Jones from Charlotte. Daniel went to Duke. Drake went to North Carolina. We know that rivalry, how great that would have been to see him replaced by a Tar Heel. They didn't do it. They rolled with Daniel Jones, and then they got cooked by Sam Darnold. That's got to be one of the worst feelings in week one for any team this week, to get cooked by Sam Darnold and to have your quarterback look that bad in year 3 with that coach.
It is. And you know what? That coach is going to end up going to the unemployment line because of that quarterback and some other decisions that were made by the front office To add injury to insult, I saw Saquon Barkley the other night look like the dude that he was drafted to be. 3 touchdowns, and he's playing for the rival Eagles. It's like the optics. It can't get any worse when you add all of this stuff up. And in general, when you hear someone that covers the team the way Patricia covers that team every day with Locked On Giants sound like that after one game, it sounds like somebody got to go.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, where every offseason, it felt like in New York, there was questions about what's the future of Daniel Jones? What's the future of Saquon Barkley? We finally found out the future of Saquon Barkley is down I-95 in Philadelphia, where you mentioned he balled out in Sao Paulo on Friday night. Not 1, not 2, 3 touchdowns, 3 against the Packers. And I could see it. People were saying we need a live camera on Joe Shane right now and John Mara to figure out what's going on. Because John Mara, obviously the owner there in New York, just to see what that relationship's going to be like. The fact that they've kept Jones and they let Saquon Barkley leave, and looking after just 1 week, I know we overreact, but we can't just look at this in a vacuum. We have seen years of Jones struggle to show that he is an NFL caliber quarterback of being a franchise quarterback. And we have seen to this point, that is not the case. Well, Saquon, the only issue with him was injuries and the Giants offensive line also not being very good. Now he's in Philadelphia. Great offensive line, great scheme. And we see how he plays.
See how it plays out. So the Giants, a couple of years ago, the year you mentioned, they were winning with kind of shaky quarterback play. And a lot of people were wondering if it was sustainable, right? Well, they would love to be back into that situation right now, like the Bears. They have a new quarterback. Guess what? Didn't play particularly well, but they won. So we're going to start asking the same question. But I'm going to go to Lauren Cox here with Locked On Bears and listen to the way he described Caleb's performance in his first NFL debut.
Everyone's going to talk about Caleb Williams' performance in his NFL debut. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears offense underwhelmed. There's not a lot of sugarcoating what they got from that side of the ball. A couple of field goal drives and a very nice 2-point conversion after the pick six, but really just a couple of field goal drives. When they had 3 separate drives starting in Tennessee Titans territory, and they came away with 6 points on those drives. And so everyone in his NFL debut is going to look to Caleb Williams, of course, and see 14 of 29 for 93 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, a 55.7 passer rating, a just barely sub 50% completion percentage. I don't have the yards per attempt mathed out there, but it's not good. The stat line, the box score, not good from Caleb Williams.
They won. That's all the people in Chicago are going to say. The same thing that they said about Daniel Jones 2 years ago. They won.
Yeah, that's all that really matters. You look at the rookies yesterday. Caleb didn't play well. They found a way to win because football is a team game. And that's really a win to Ryan Poles. Darrell Taylor, who they got from Seattle, he made a big play for them yesterday in that game. And just looking at the overall defensive performance, you have to have a defense that can pick up your quarterback and the offense, especially in week 1. I just don't understand the thought process of people out there all offseason thinking that the Bears are going to hit the ground running with a rookie quarterback. We rarely see that happen. I understand Stroud did that last year with Houston. He is the exception, not the rule. And I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is not going to get better as time moves on and can be someone who can help them get to the playoffs in week 1, but he struggled. Jaden Daniels struggled in their loss down in Tampa Bay. Bo Nix struggled in their loss up in Seattle with Denver. It takes time for these rookies, but fortunately for Chicago, it seems that they actually have a team and not just a quarterback.
You're absolutely right. I know people are like that. Today, that kid is probably up in Chicago saying, hey, it ain't about me, it's about we, right? And the question is whether it's sustainable. But I'd rather be 1-0 worried about that than be 0-1 like some of these other teams. We're going to get to some quarterbacks in segment 2. One guy has turned his career around. The other guy has his career looking like it got turned upside down by his activity off the field, and he just can't get right in his head. I'm talking about Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. Prior to me getting to that, there's some breaking news out of the division you cover and the team that you cover.
Yeah, seeing reports from Tom Pelissero and all the reporters out there in the NFL. Derek Brown, the Panthers defensive tackle, Pro Bowler from a year ago, who just got signed this offseason, has had a meniscus tear in his knee and is set to have surgery, which may keep him out for the remainder of the season. And That's a massive blow for a team that got its doors blown off down in New Orleans on Sunday, 47-10. Game 1 of Dave Canales, new head coach there. Year 2 for Bryce Young. He did not look like the answer in that game. And the defense also looked atrocious. The Saints scored on 9 straight drives until they called off the dogs and took out Derek Carr in the first team offense, put Jake Haener in there. They scored 9 straight times, and they gave 180 yards on the ground. This is a defense that was 31st last year against, according to EPA, against the run, and they gave 180 with Derek Brown. So what are they going to do now without Derek Brown, without Brian Burns, who's in New York, without Frankie Louva, who's in Washington, without Dante Jackson, who made a critical play to win that game down in Atlanta for Pittsburgh? This is just the worst possible news Panthers could get on a Monday following an absolutely embarrassing loss.
It sounds like you got a lot of fun that's going to be had on Locked On Panthers every single day, man. That's right. We're going to continue to have some fun here. We're going to talk about some quarterbacks. One that's rejuvenating his career in Baker Mayfield. The other one is trying to find his way in Deshaun Watson. We'll get to all of that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Got to let you know that today's show is brought to you and sponsored by PrizePicks. Y'all know what it is, man. We talked about it at the top of the show. It's all about the projections. PrizePicks is the #1 daily fantasy site in the United States of America, and it's that way for a reason. Because 1, it's so fun. 2, it's not you against 5 million people. That's how many people are on PrizePicks. It's just you against the house. And all you got to do is say, y'all are wrong. I'm going more or less on your projections, and you can win a lot of money and have fun while you're watching the games. Also, download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's all one word, and you'll get $50 instantly when you pay $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Today's show is also brought to you and sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, man, if you have ever been in a situation like me, I had all of this stuff going on at one time. Time management, trying to spend time with family and work hard enough to pay the bills. I had death in the family last year. Very lost somebody very, very close to me. And then I had a hip replacement because I was dealing with chronic pain. All of those things allowed me and made me get a little bit off, and I couldn't find my way back. So I turned to therapy, and you can do the exact same thing. If you are considering therapy, please consider BetterHelp, man. BetterHelp is absolutely wonderful. Just take the guesswork out of all of that stuff. Make sure you go to BetterHelp and allow someone to help you get yourself back on track. That's right. BetterHelp. BetterHelp. It is BetterHelp. All you got to do is go to betterhelp.com and give therapy a try. It's completely online. And you can change therapists anytime you get ready on BetterHelp. It's betterhelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP. Make sure you check it out. All right, segment number 2 here on Locked On NFL with my Monday guest, my man Julian Council. He's dealing with all of this stuff about his team that he's dealing with. So we're going to take it off of him. We're going to let him focus on the other 31 teams around the NFL right now.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, one of them is in your division, and I know you ain't going to be too happy about this, but there's a kid down there named Baker Mayfield who has really, really rejuvenated his career and made a lot of us that want to fire people, like I'm trying to do Daniel Jones today. It makes you think that maybe if a guy's put in the right position with better infrastructure, he'll play better. Listen to what James Yocko has to say here.
A big win for the Bucs to open the season. We hand out game balls. There's going to be 2 handed out on either side of the football, but let's start with the top one, the golden game ball, if you will, and that has to go to Baker Mayfield. What an absolutely phenomenal performance. I'll run through the stats again real quick. 24 of 30 passing, 289 yards, 4 touchdown passes. He was sacked 1 time. He escaped many, many more. No turnovers, just an absolute machine. Through the 4 o'clock games, so excluding Sunday night and excluding Monday night, Baker Mayfield has the highest passer rating in the NFL at 146.4. He just seemed completely unstoppable. Very comfortable in this offense, made some great checks and calls at the line to put the Bucs into winnable situations.
Hey, I mean, I was probably the biggest Baker Mayfield critic. Probably gave up on him a little bit.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with Baker Mayfield was it seemed like when he was in Cleveland at his first stop, he didn't do a good job of understanding that he was one of the guys, and he sounded too management-like, and I thought that was a bad look. But somehow, some way, he has gotten it back on track, and he looks really, really good. And it looks like a bargain with the money that they gave him in the offseason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you go back to his time in Cleveland, I think a lot of times we forget that these guys are like 22, 23, sometimes even younger, coming into a professional workplace with grown men. So it can be difficult for them to understand the situation that they're in and how to conduct themselves. And I think Baker has certainly matured, but he has been a good player at points and times in his career, going back to even in Cleveland, where the Browns won a playoff game finally when they blew out the Steelers on that Sunday night. Then they pushed Kansas City to the brink when Mahomes had the concussion. Chad Henne came in. They were very close to playing for an AFC championship. And I mean, I've been covering the Panthers. He was here in Charlotte briefly. I felt like he was put in a bad situation where they waited until July 5th to trade for him. He didn't get a playbook until the week before camp. Then they had a quarterback competition between him and Darnold, even though they spent all offseason trying to get rid of Sam Darnold. So clearly he wasn't going to be the week one starter. I didn't think he had a good situation here. He goes to LA later on that season. He plays well enough to win a game on a Thursday as soon as he gets there. And then last year with Dave Canales, he was outstanding. And we all wondered, with Canales now in Carolina, Liam Cohen, who he spent time with in LA briefly, coming over, would he be able to come back and play the way he played last season? And based off a 1 week sample size, yeah, he's going to play like that and maybe even better and have Tampa Bay right there in the division title race, especially looking at how bad the Falcons looked on Sunday.
You know what? You make a great point. And I thought about something, and I want you to think I'm being insensitive here. Okay. I don't want you to think that, even though usually somebody says that they're probably trying to be insensitive, right? I just thought about it. Both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield rolled through Carolina. and now I'm making you sit here and talk about them. I'm going to talk about somebody else, though, who almost got to Carolina. And I'm going to remind everybody out there that Cleveland wasn't the only team interested in Deshaun Watson. So the thing that I'm about to say, it could have happened to anybody. Deshaun Watson might be the worst acquisition of a player I've ever seen in the NFL, not only because of how much money they're paying him, how much he's guaranteed, but he seems like he's broken here and his psyche is all screwed up. And he actually empowered the Houston Texans with all of that ammunition that they have used mightily to build their team. I want you to hear this Watson clip, but it's coming from Dallas, their opponents. Listen to what the Locked On Cowboys guy said after the game.
Yeah, just a couple things on the Cleveland side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Watson coming back from a shoulder injury. I think even Browns fans knew that this was probably going to be a pretty rough start. I mean, he didn't do anything in preseason, hardly practiced multiple days in a row. So I think a lot of Browns fans knew what was coming. But what I don't think they thought was going to come was that both starting offensive tackles were going to be out, right?
Did they only get what I think one first down in the entire first half? So
it was, I think it was 2 first downs in the entire first half, 1 in the first quarter. I mean, it was rough. I mean,
it was really rough.
Mike Zimmer had Kevin Stefanski in a very, very dark place where anything that he was throwing out, the Cowboys had answers to.
Yeah, they were in a dark place. They're going to even be in a darker place if Deshaun Watson doesn't regain some of his form from his other days. But I don't know how he can do that, man, with that line being the way that it is. And I said Brian Daboll might be out of there. Kevin Stefanski, he might be going with him with that. Those Boo Birds came out in the first quarter, man. If you only see 2 first downs and a half, you might see Jameis Winston sooner than we expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what would have to happen. I don't think Stefanski's in trouble. They did just go to the playoffs with Joe Flacco, and I'm sure Browns fans were chanting and wishing Flacco was still their quarterback after what we saw yesterday. But you're right. Like, as far as acquisition, it's the worst contract in the history of the NFL at this point in time. 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed. Never mind the fact that all the disgusting things he was accused of when they were all trying to get him, and all being the Panthers, the Falcons, the Browns were all teams that were interested. The Saints as well were interested in bringing in Deshaun Watson, and Carolina only didn't get him because David Tepper, the worst owner in the NFL, balked at the idea of giving him a fully guaranteed contract. I don't think it's that surprising, I guess, that he's played this bad. Like, it is surprising, but it shouldn't be. He didn't play in the 2021 season because of the situation that was going on off the field and his disdain of the Houston Texans organization. When he gets to Cleveland, he's suspended for the first 11 games. So he only plays 6 games that year. Last year played 6. He has the shoulder injury. So he's played up until yesterday 12 games since 2020. You got to play football to be able to play well and to get and understand the speed of the game. And we have not really seen Deshaun Watson be Deshaun Watson since 2020. It's in large part because of his own actions and also the injuries. So for Cleveland, they kind of get what they deserve. I felt like whatever team went out there and got him deserved this, and it's coming home to roost, man, because I'm not a fan of going out there throwing money at players who clearly cannot conduct themselves off the field. And Watson, whether you believe it or not, I think the karma is coming back right now.
Yeah, and I ain't gonna litigate anything. So, but I will tell you this: not going to jail or whatever, he didn't go to jail. I'm gonna tell you what happened though. At the very least, people found out that there was some weird behavior going on, right? And once people know who you really are, can you just forge ahead? We found out that Michael Jordan was gambling and all of these things happened, and he forged ahead, and Tiger Woods was doing all of this stuff with all of these different women, but he came back and he forged ahead. I don't think Deshaun Watson is cut from that stuff. There are a lot of people that probably aren't real upset about
look, Mike was gambling, but he was already winning. Winning championships.
He was winning.
He already had respect in that locker room. Yep. Like, Watson's getting accused of weird stuff.
Yeah.
He ain't even been in Cleveland. So are these guys, are they with it? Or like, do I really want to be led by this guy? Because he kind of seems to be kind of doing some weird stuff, man. I don't know if I want to be a part of all this. Yeah. So that's
Hey, being next to a guy like that might rub you the wrong way. No pun intended. I guess pun is intended in this situation. Look, here's what we're going to talk about in segment number 3. Here, we're going to talk about moral victories, and then we're going to talk about maybe one of the most ridiculous things that's so funny to me that we started out with a New York team. We're going to end with somebody saying that this Monday night game might be a Super Bowl preview. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, man, it's game time. That's right. Do you have tickets? If you don't, I can tell you exactly where you need to be going to get them. You ready for the answer? Game Time. That's right. The Game Time app is where you can go to get tickets for any sporting event, any comedy show, whatever. If they're selling tickets for people to come see it, you can get them at Game Time. And if you're late, even if the game is already started or the event is already started, you don't have to worry about the mean lady behind the glass saying, your procrastination is not my emergency, because your procrastination is exactly their emergency, because they have the greatest late deals that you're ever going to get. You get seat views, panoramic views, and they have the lowest price guaranteed and will credit you 110% the difference if that's not true. So here's what you do. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use this code. Ready? Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create a redeem account and get the redeem code. And listen, this is how you spell it. LOCKEDON NFL. All one word for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, man? It's game time. All right, third final segment here on Locked On NFL. Here in the barbershop, Tony Wiggins with his Monday host, Julian Council, talking about something other than the Panthers to make him feel better this morning. I want to talk about a very good game last night that went in overtime. The Jaguars had a close game, but I don't believe in moral victories, right? But Locked On Rams has a different thing to say, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and let you decide for yourself. Check this out.
But there's a lot to feel good about if you're the Rams in this loss. And usually I hate moral victories. I'm never the moral victory guy, but tonight I'm going to be one. Because if you're the Rams, you went into Detroit and went up against a Lions team that a lot of experts have picked to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Some have picked them to win the Super Bowl, and you took them to overtime. You outplayed them for long stretches. And that's without your starting right tackle in Rob Havenstein. You lose your backup left tackle in Joe Noteboom, and you're down to your backup's backup in A.J. Curry. You lose Steve Avila, your starting left guard. You lose Puka Nacua. Tons of injuries in this one, and you still manage to give yourself a chance to win in OT. Other big takeaways. One, Matthew Stafford still has it. The arm is still elite. The production is still there. There was the bad interception before the half, but he was still making throws that only a handful of quarterbacks that have ever played this game are capable of making. We saw no-look throws. We saw him manipulating the pocket like a wizard. Stafford still has it.
So I'm conflicted here because I don't believe in moral victories either. Shout out to Doug McCain with a great post-game report that probably came at 2 o'clock in the morning because the game ended so late, right? Of Locked On Rams. Make sure you check them out. Listen, I'm all about giving credit, saying, let's look at the brighter side of this. It's not as bad as it seemed. But here's the problem with the moral victories. They're wounded now. They went in that game and played the game tough, but now they ain't leaving out of there. What did they say in that movie Harlem Nights? You might walk over here, but you're going to limp back. Well, they limped back to L.A. So they're not even the same team that they were going into the game. So, no, it's not a moral victory in my opinion because they're hurt.
Yeah, I'm not encouraged by that. When you bring up that note boom, Havenstein, Avila all are injured. And I saw a report earlier today that Avila has an MCL sprain, so he's going to be out for a period of time. Who knows how long that's going to be. And Stafford, yeah, he looked good. He was outstanding. He was better than Jared Goff. And I thought that Cooper Kupp looked really good too. We had seen last year Puka Nacua was that breakout star, and we didn't see the Cooper Kupp we had seen in years past. Well, we saw him last night in that game, especially on that drive where they were trying to go down, I think took the lead. Like that was surgical stuff for Matthew Stafford and why Detroit Lions fans loved him for all that decade before he went to LA. But they're not going to have Puka. They're not going to have Noteboom, Havenstein, Avila. This is not a Rams team that's going to be back in the playoffs next year. It was not a manageable offensive line that they had to deal with. Stafford was taking some shots, and he's not going to survive the season if those three are going to miss significant time or just not going to be out there. And same thing with Puka Nacua. You got to have that second guy. You cannot only have Cooper Kupp at his age and only be leaning on him. So, yeah, it's encouraging that they're able to hang in there and have a chance to win that game, a game they probably should have won, honestly, but they lost the game. And then they lost a bunch of players. I don't see how there's any positive coming out of that.
All right, let me try to make something out of it. This is what I'm going to make out of it, right? Puka Nacua, before the injury, showed that he was the real deal, that last year was not some sort of dream, right? He could really play, and he's going to play. Jarrett Verse, as well as Braden Fisk, they're the real deal, combined with the two guys that they drafted last year. Their entire defensive line, after losing Aaron Donald, those guys are first and second year players, and Les Snead continues to show his magic. And then those offensive line, Avila, and all of those are second year players. So these dudes are people that nobody wanted. So good news is, yeah, they got a bunch of dudes that can play. Bad news is they got a bunch of dudes that ain't going to be able to play because they're hurt right now. And they might get too far behind. Who might they get behind? The 49ers. Some people believe tonight's game in San Francisco or Palo Alto, wherever they play, the Bay Area, right? Well, they got one of their own coming back, and that's Aaron Rodgers. So the Jets and the 49ers. Somebody thinks it might be a Super Bowl preview. Listen to this, Julian.
This is usually the part of the crossover episode where we do some predictions, and I don't know how things are going to go in week one. I don't think it's going to ruin either the 49ers or the Jets seasons if they don't get a victory in week one. But I want to go to a prediction a little further down the road, John. Is this potentially a Super Bowl preview with the New York Jets and the San Francisco 49ers in week one?
I've been burned so many times by the Jets in the past. So you learn as a Jets fan not to like let your guard down. But I think this Jets team could be really good this year. I think they already have the defense. Now you're bringing Rodgers back into the mix. And, last year the Jets had a lot of Super Bowl talk, but heading into the season, I think there was some skepticism about it because they did not have the offensive line that that you need to have a championship team. This year, they brought in Tyron Smith. They also traded for Morgan Moses from Baltimore. So I feel a lot more confident about the offensive line this year. And look, the 49ers, the 49ers have played in the NFC Championship game at least every single year. I think the 49ers clearly are the team to beat in the NFC. I think this definitely could be a Super Bowl preview.
They set Buchko up real bad. Peacock, did you see Eric Crocker? You saw Crocker laugh So if I was Butch Cole, I'd have been like, okay, he's laughing. This is a trick question a little bit. You set me up because now I gotta say, yeah, I think they could go. I think they might be able to go to Super. I just want to know if Aaron Rodgers is going to survive past 4 plays. It's like you remember when Richard Pryor did Live on Sunset Strip? They say he actually bombed one night and came back in a new suit and actually did it again. Well, last year in the season opener, Aaron Rodgers played 4 plays. It was anticlimactic. Everybody went to sleep. They brought him right back to do it all over again against the team that has these killer pass rushers. Julian, I don't know, man, if they're going to get off to a good start or not.
Yeah, I agree with John, though. It comes all the way down to the offensive line where Rodgers is hurt because the offensive line couldn't protect. And if you look at what they did all last season, they couldn't protect. And I know they went out and they got the Cowboys left. They got Tyron Smith, and they went out and they also brought in Moses, and they got Elijah Barrett-Tucker, who was injured last year. It's a unit that should be improved, but you got to see him play first. Offensive line's all about continuity and got health and continuity and all that. So I don't know. I saw this Jets team during joint practice with the Panthers with my own eyes. I was not impressed by them that day, and the Panthers looked terrible. Now, it was just practice. It was training camp. Understand all of that. But that was not an impressive team that I saw, especially offensively. Garrett Wilson, he's outstanding. The rest of the receiving core leaves a lot to be desired. Malachi Corley, the rookie out of Western Kentucky, should be able to help them. I love Breece Hall. It's the Jets. I mean, John, it's the Jets. Like, you really think a team that hasn't been to the playoffs since 2010, the Jets are going to have a Super Bowl preview with the 49ers? Maybe they get to the playoffs. That would be a nice thing to hit since they haven't done that in a long time. But going to the Super Bowl, is Broadway Joe Namath coming out to play for them? Like, what are we talking about here?
Man, listen, I think you must have got a phone call from Alec Bronson, man, because this is exactly, you just made her day.
That's ludicrous.
Yeah, you just made her day with this response, man. Look, whatever goes on the barbershop stays in the barbershop. So we ain't going to tell nobody what you said. We're just going to post it for the whole world to see here on Locked On NFL every Monday. This is what you get from Julian Council every single Monday here in the barbershop. Y'all can come back and be a client and park yourself right here because he'll be here the same time every single week. And so will I be here every single day. Make sure you check out Tyler Rowland on Locked On NFL. He gives you the NFL Espresso early in the morning. Tyler's a madman, so understand you're going to wake up when you hear the show. And then you come on over here and mellow out with me here at Locked On NFL in the barbershop. All right, man, until tomorrow when we bring it back again, of course, make sure you check out the Monday Night Football game tonight, and we'll have that impact and the impact of Derek Brown, all of that stuff, his injury, all of that stuff here. I know you shaking your head. Here on the next episode of Locked On NFL. Until next time, man, we'll see you.